Hello everyone, Q is Wings, the YouTube channel. Part 2 for the ATPL 3 video series today. First one was definition. Today it's going to be the theoretical course descriptions, and the third one, the changes in 2022. First one, the part 1. What did we talk about it? The definition, the privileges, the requirements, and a quick overview of the license itself, taking EASA, European Aviation Safety Agency, as a reference. Today we'll talk about the course descriptions, like 14. Next year it's going to be 13 courses. We're going to go over them one by one and make some short descriptions, which are heavier, which are lighter, which are involving more mathematics, which require more memory, things like that. Okay, let's go over them one by one. Course number 010, Air Law. It's a fact-based subject. We need to remember some rules regarding to rules of air, governing bodies, or how they're applied into our real life in flying or regulatory environment. Like what is CPL, what kind of privileges, like we spoke about in the previous video, what kind of privileges does it give to us as pilots? What can and should we legally do as the PIC in case of an unlawful interference, for instance? We gotta check our documents before every flight. What kind of documents do we have to check, and exactly which spots, which dates or items we have to look in those documents to make sure they are nice and legal. The next one, course number 021, Aircraft General Knowledge, Airframe Systems and Power Plant, aka engines. The basics of the aircraft engines, airframes, and systems. General knowledge about commercial airliners, but they are non-specific. Combination of knowledge and understanding of kind of how it works basis. Like what is an elevator, stabilizer, trim, what is a THS, how does our landing gear operate, hydraulically, electrically, pneumatically, just by gravity? Or what's the difference between turbofan, turbojet, or turboprop engines? What's the concept of bypass, high bypass, low bypass, things like that. Let's check next one. A sister course, course number 022, Aircraft General Knowledge again, but this time instrumentation. Basically, all kinds of screens, gauges, indicators, annunciators, you name it, in a basic means of aviation in aircraft. Starting from the altimeter all the way to gyros, to GPS systems, and in terms of indication, they talk about these things. Like what is a scratch pad, what is MCDU, multi-control display unit, or what's the relation between an MCDU and FMGC? What is a GPS, what is an IRS system, what kind of different IRS systems are out there? What kind of gyros do we have? Laser gyros, conventional gyros, what is an ADF, VOR, what kind of needles or what kind of different indications if it is a glass cockpit in our aircraft. Next up, flight performance and planning, mass and balance, course number 031. It talks almost entirely about the weights and load distribution of the aircraft. What kind of loads do we have on the aircraft? Passengers, baggages, cargo, fuel, and what is a zero fuel weight? Do we fly without a fuel? No, of course not, but it's for calculation, a concept for calculation. What is a load sheet, and how do we check our load sheet and determine our center of gravity is within the limits, for instance? Or how do we decide how much fuel to take in terms of aircraft weight distribution, and are we close to our maximum takeoff weight? Do we make it within our maximum landing weight with this given amount of loads on the aircraft? It's a shorter exam according to my notes here, but more or less more maths are involved, although it's not so rocket science. Okay, this one's sister is performance, flight performance and planning, course number 032, performance for aeroplanes, not helicopters. Aircraft performance in different stages of flight. Takeoff speeds according to different weights and different runway, and weather conditions. There are different calculations and different speeds needed to be calculated, and they are directly related to our safety. Landing distances, of course, climb speeds, cruise speeds. We're going to be using formulas, graphs, and tables mostly for this course. Third sister, flight performance and planning, flight planning and monitoring, course number 033. It's considered lighter than the performance course. It still needs some memorization and working out with formulas and charts and tables. An example question would be, which route are we flying today and why is it not a straight line? Or maybe sometimes it is, occasionally. When do we have to descend en route? What is the right point to start descending without burning too much fuel? And what is a STAR, for instance? What is an SID? Flight planning and monitoring is dealing with this kind of concepts. Human performance and limitations. It talks about the factors affecting the human body, as the name suggests, like sleeping, fatigue, relations between diving and flying, how much time, how many hours do you have to put in between two. Alcohol, same goes for it too. EASA doesn't mind if you're a social drinker as long as you obey the rules, which is basically bottle to throttle, 12 hours, that's what they say. And the illusions, optical illusions, our natural eyes are succumbed to. The runway might be looking different in different angles of approach and in different situations like night, day, humidity, things like that. And what kind of skills do we have to have as pilots, aka ICAO 8 core competencies? How much time do we have to remain conscious in case of a sudden decompression? Neurology, well, needless to say, it's one of the most important, isn't it? We are flying inside of it, not to mention we live inside of it all the time since we are breathing air. Everything about the weather and weather reports related with winds, temperature, pressure, precipitation, like bad weather like icing, thunderstorms, things like that. How hazardous weather phenomena are defined and how to deal with them, basically avoid them, how to respect them. All kinds of information regarding to understanding the mechanism of the earth and different heating of the earth. How is it affecting the weather situation? Navigation courses. First one, general navigation, course number 061. Navigation in general, as the name suggests, everything regarding to the wayfinding for pilots and tactics around the world. Various types of charts we are going to be using, and some mathematics is of course needed to calculate like headings, tracks, positions, unit conversions from feet to meters, meters to kilometers, whatever you name it, arrival times, aka ETAs, wind components, a little bit of mental math in some questions, and while others require more precise ones. Yes, as a small note about the general navigation, MDR, mental dead reckoning. In some questions, basically they are asking us to use the mental dead reckoning with rules of thumb methods. It also warns that if other techniques such as trigonometry are used to determine the answer, then the determined answer may be incorrect. So better use the method as they are asking us to use. There are examples. There is a document about all these ATPL and the other license thingy called Easy Access Rules, part FCL. Next one, again, navigation, course code 062, radio navigation. It's basically a continuation of the general navigation, but this time we will be using radio navigation facilities like VORs, DMEs, ILSs, ranges, bearings related to them, like techniques like homing, tracking, and instrument approaches, things like that, in addition to the satellite technology like GPS or RNAV. Next one, course number 070, operational procedures. I'm reading straight to my notes from here. All kinds of manuals mandatory to be issued by the companies and to be read by pilots, obviously, and documents to be carried on board because inspectors might show up without notice. Emergency equipment to be carried, companies have to meet the minimum regulation standards issued by the authorities. They have to obey. However, they might make them more restricted as they wish. Of course, it has to be approved by the authority, but they can do it. Quick example, you have to be stabilized in IFR conditions at 1000 feet. But in visual conditions, this goes down to 500 feet. You have until 500 feet to meet the stabilization criteria. But some companies, in order to make their pilots operate safer, as they think, they have to be stabilized in 1000 feet regardless of the visibility conditions, which means even in VFR VMC conditions they have to be stabilized at 1000 feet instead of the legal requirement of 500. That's a small example. That course looks a bit like air law and also needs memorization for our information. Our next course is considered to be slightly harder than the other ones, although all of these courses are there to make us better pilots, not to give us hard time, right? So number of course is 081, Principles of Flight for Aeroplanes. Well, it has some maths and knowledge combined. It's like partly like performance course. It involves formulas, graphs, and tables like the other ones. What happens around our wings to keep us in the air, what kind of airflow is it, the pressure differences and all. What if we go too fast, what kind of changes happens if we go to at the speed of sound, or if we go too slow, why do we stall, what is a stall, and what is an angle of attack, things like that. What is Mach number, what is the forces acting on an airframe, like good old thrust, drag, lift, and weight thingy. Conversions between Mach numbers, different types of airspeed, true airspeed, equivalent airspeed, calibrated airspeed, indicated airspeed, ground speed, you name it. Yeah, it is an important course. It's a little bit longer, time consuming, but it is worth it, I would tell you that. Communications. Currently, VFR and IFR communications separated. As of 2022, with the new syllabus, they merged together, becoming the course 090 Communications. It talks about VFR and IFR communications, communication methods and phraseologies in VFR and IFR situations, because they are, of course, different rules. Air traffic control services providing these and helping us in the sky. They are both our best friends and our traffic polices at the same time. How do we communicate on radio in different situations? What kind of transponder codes we are using? What kind of phraseologies, like I said, we will be using? And readbacks and everything, and emergency situations, normal situations, you name it. It's a short one, it's an easy one, but it's a necessary one, like the others. I think that's what wraps it up in general. We tried to describe each of these courses shortly, and there are currently 14 courses. They're going to be 13. Next video will be about the newer changes, which will be including new syllabus. There are slightly different, slightly added up concepts, but the whole thing is basically the same. So we can consider this as some kind of update and a renovation about the whole thing. There will be some new concepts called Area 100 KSA, knowledge, skill, and attitude, and there will be more emphasis on the core competencies, problem solving, leadership, situational awareness, and threat and error management, aka TEM. Hope you like this. Hope this was giving a little bit of idea. See you on the next video. Thank you very much.